Hey everybody, welcome to your post show. We just finished talking about Mortal Kombat, the Voyager episode, Mortal Coil, Neelix's deathbed confession episode of Star Trek Voyager. Clay is here to talk about our Discord questions. This is the post show. We talk about things on Discord that people post. If you're a patron at patreon.com/the Pensky File, you can come over to here on Discord and you leave comments and we might talk about them in this thing. And then we put it up on Thursday. Clay, how are you?
I'm good. Before we get into questions, I'd like to talk about how a friend of mine just sent me an ABC News article alerting me to the fact that Home Depot now offers stainless steel Braveheart sword replicas for $50.
There's a lot of surprising stuff at Home Depot. If you ever just go there and you go on the app and you look around, Braveheart swords aren't actually some of the strangest stuff that you can get there.
Reclaim your freedom from the tyrannical English king with this authentic William Wallace sword. Yep. The item's description on Home Depot's website reads.
The item reads. Yeah. Home Depot.
I gotta find one.
I go to Home Depot quite a bit nowadays, but
gotta get yourself a sword.
I do. It's a hard place to find things. You have to go in and use the website. You have to look up on the website what you're looking for to find out where it is in the store because it's impossible to find things.
It really is the kind of store that, like, based on the marketing and like the understanding of like hardware stores that I think are in popular consciousness.
Yep.
Seems like the people who work there should know where everything is.
They don't.
But the secret is they got no fucking clue. It's basically a bunch of boxes.
Yeah.
That you are left to your own devices to try and find stuff. When I had to replace my sink, though, the guy who worked there was very helpful, so I will say that. But it's one of the few times that I've gone there and been like, hey, do you have this? And had the person not go, let me check the website.
Let me check. Yeah, let me check. Oh, it's a... Home Depot is also weird because once you go there frequently, you realize how shitty everything is there. You know, it's not like a... It's not a place where you can really customize your house or anything. You know what I mean? It's all just like it's just sort of like generic big box stuff that you can add to. It's not a craft hardware store, if that makes sense. It's kind of just like these are the 5 options we have for these things, and you can take it or leave it.
My favorite and most embarrassing interaction or experience at a Home Depot. I felt so bad about this. This is going to be really stupid, so don't worry. Years ago, when I was first putting together my as close to screen-accurate Ghostbusters Halloween costume as I could muster on no money.
Yep.
I was building my own ecto goggles, and for the pieces, like the lens pieces, required some like plumbing or electrical piece. Like I had a list of specific pieces.
Yeah, you were building off of a menu, right? You were
yeah. So I went to Home Depot and I'm looking through and I found a couple things, and then I'm looking for one and I can't find it. And then this old man comes up to me and he's like, hey, what are you looking for? And I thought he worked there. So I said, I'm looking for this piece. He's like, oh yeah, nice. I got one of those in my truck. I'll go get it for you. I was like, what? And so the guy left, and instead of me just running away, I waited, and the guy came back and gave me this piece, and he's like, "Hey, I had an extra one. There you go. Don't worry about it. What's the project you doing?" And in his mind, he's expecting me to be like, "Well, I'm rewiring the living room, right? I gotta get this piece."
You got expecting some
and
real
my wife,
man
and I gotta get the thing. And my brother won't help me out, and he's like, "Yeah, definitely." And I said, "I'm building a Halloween costume," and I saw his face just go, like just drop, and then he's like, "Oh." Okay. And then like he just drifted off like a ghost. Then I took the piece and I placed it on the shelf and I walked away.
The problem was it wasn't even the right piece. That's it for Mortal Coil. That's it for Home Depot. Kyle Barrett has one question I have to get through.
Mm-hmm.
It took me just over a year, but I finally finished watching through Seinfeld for the first time. What are your favorite episodes? Do you agree that any episode with George's parents is fantastic, while any episode with Jerry's parents sucks? And what are your thoughts on the last 2 Larry David Les seasons? Personally, season 8 is my favorite. Also, Do you pee in the shower? First things last, I do pee in the shower. I don't see any.
Interesting.
I don't see any issue with that.
Never done it.
I don't see any issue with that. The kids do it all the time now, and I'm just like, well, I'm just going to join this fiesta. Not at the same time, but once they're out of there, I'm going to go.
You use it like a trough, like at old Fenway Park.
I
where
do,
you don't use
yeah.
the toilet. You just sidle up to the tub and let it rip.
Well, I'm not in there like pissing on the tile or anything. I'm controlling my stream. But yeah, that's a famous Seinfeld. It's all pipes is George's rationale.
I mean, he's not wrong.
It's all pipes. It all goes somewhere. That's because I had to fix the tub issue at one time. The other thing that's funny about
because the pipes were all clogged with pee residue
with the uric acid.
The urine had fused the hair together into a
to tie
immovable
it back
solid rock.
To Home Depot. What's funny about home stuff is that you tend to think that technology in your home is like magical on some level, like it's beyond your understanding as to what's going on with it, and so you can't fix it. But if you ever want to just save $800, a good way to do it is just look on YouTube how you do something, and it's always easy. It's like unless you're building an addition to your house or something, or maybe electrical would be an example. I guess like plumbing. If you're not doing something that's bringing either electrical or water into you, and you might want to check with somebody before you start doing it, it's also simple to fix. Really, it's just like just a weird thing. I feel like you feel you're saving your own time by calling the guy, but by the time you call the guy and you deal with him, and he comes in and you got to pay him $900 for something like an hour of labor, and then you look like have you had this experience where they come in and you watch them because you're like, I'll learn what this is, and the guy finishes it in like 15 minutes. You're like, this is embarrassing. That I need this. I need you need your man, the guy that you were talking to come in and do some man shit, and I can't fix it for him. It's embarrassing.
Excuse me. We recently had to reglaze the tub and redo the tiles, and I am, after seeing what that entailed,
not interested.
Happy to have somebody else do it. Yeah. But the sink stuff, like only because the guy who fixed the sink when the sink fell in, did about as good a job as I think that I would have done, if not slightly less so.
Yeah.
That was the one where I was like, maybe we should have just tried to do this one.
Motors on equipment is surprisingly easy to replace. Like our dishwasher, the motor went.
Interesting.
This must be complicated. I can't do this.
Yeah.
And I watched it. I was like, I can do it. And if I had to do it again, it would take me probably 10 minutes. It took me a good hour because I didn't know what the hell I was doing the first time. But it's really not difficult at all. And the thing runs like new again. So who knows? Yeah.
When I replaced the faucet, getting it out was almost killed me.
Yeah.
It wasn't a difficult task. Like in theory, it was just like getting in there and getting the thing undone. It was awful. But putting the new one in, simple.
Piece of cake. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm that way with car stuff. Like, if there's something wrong with my car, it's like, well, I'll take it to the magician to fix the car.
Yeah.
And then if you watch stuff online, they're like, just, jam your door open so you can pull it apart. Just pull the guts out so you can slam a new mirror in there. It's like, oh, okay, this is just plastic pieces held together with more plastic.
That's the thing about home stuff too, because you're like, for piping, you're like, oh, I don't want to twist this too hard. I don't want this thing to break. And you watch the video and guys like, if you can't get it off, just fucking hit it with the hammer.
That's when I was taking the sink out. I was taking the faucet out. There was like the pipes that were coming in, like weren't coming through the thing. And I was talking to my cousin who works at the housing authority and does this stuff all the time. And he's just bend the pipes until they snap off. Oh, okay. And it worked. It was perfect. It came out easy after that.
No, yeah, you think it's like a delicate science, but it's really just like get the thing over here and connect it to this, and we'll call it a day. Anyway, back to the Seinfeld stuff.
Also, I will say, if you've never done it before, after you do it, you will feel like the champion of the world.
Yes, you do. I get a big kick out of being like, I can't believe I just saved myself hundreds of dollars by doing this thing. Like that's really what it is. But yeah, you do feel it's nice to feel like you've done something. Season 5 of Seinfeld is the best season in my opinion. Kyle has season 8, which is a post Larry David season. I think he said that he likes the cartooniness of that. I don't like the last 2 seasons of Seinfeld because of that cartooniness. I think it peaks around season 4 and 5. That's when it's at its creative best and like the most in touch with what the show was originally set up to do. My favorite episode is the gum, which I think is season 7. Season 7 is another good season. And yes, George's parents are terrific, while Jerry's parents generally do not add anything to the show, unfortunately. I think they took Jerry's parents and they realized that they had to make them into characters, and that's where they succeeded with the Costanza characters. Like they have to be a little... Jerry's parents came about in a time when the show was actively trying to be as realistic as possible. So the parents aren't totally crazy yet. They're just kind of like annoying older parents that visit him. But they realized that they had to make characters out of people eventually, and the Costanzas are the characters. That's it.
Yeah, I used to watch Seinfeld like every day when it was on reruns, but I haven't probably watched it in 10 years. Yep. So my memory is not. But I was just scrolling through season 5. Season 5 is a very good season.
Season 5 has a lot of great episodes. The Hamptons, the marine biologist is that
Puffy
season.
Shirt.
The Opposite is the finale. That's good stuff.
I do remember the stuff with anything with Jerry's parents feeling like in my mind, it's always them just like showing up at his house and staying there.
Staying on the couch.
Inconvenient time.
Yep.
At an inconvenient stretch of time. The stuff when he goes to Florida is pretty good. When he goes to visit them in Florida.
Yep.
When you've got, what's the name of the old guy?
The one that they are
Hassels.
like rivals with.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the... Is Jerry's father's name Marty? Am I thinking is one of the, they call one of them Marty all the time, but it's like the old person mafia in the little the Boca Vista place that they live.
That stuff is good. And what's his name? Lloyd Bridges as the old guy who lifts weights and stuff.
Mandelbaum.
Yes. But interestingly enough, I do remember years ago when I did a watch through the whole show, I did find myself liking the last 2 seasons quite a bit, and I was really surprised to see that those were the 2 seasons Larry David had left. I don't remember specifically what the episodes were, but I do remember them being a little bit more surreal, which I liked.
They are more surreal. Season 8 is better than season 9. I think season 9 is generally not very good, but season 8 was. I think the show felt like it was getting out from the yoke of like Larry David's concerns about what the show should be, and they went places with it. But I still generally prefer the I think 7 and 5 are my 2 favorite seasons, because 7 is the George gets engaged storyline. It has the gum in that season. Then the season 5 is I think the Hamptons is a great episode. The Opposite is fantastic.
Is that the one where they burn the house down?
The Hamptons is the shrinkage. I was in the pool.
Yeah.
Episode.
Oh yes. Yeah.
Kramer steals the lobster traps and gets arrested. And then the Opposite is the George decides to do the opposite of everything his first instinct is, which is great scene. That guy just cut you off. Take it easy. Take it easy.
The one thing I do think about all the time is anytime I was always the person who would forget to check the gas gauge on my car. Mm-hmm. And so anytime I would get down to like the E line, I would think of that episode where they take the car for the test drive.
Yes,
and they get to the E line and they're like, they're saying, should we pull off now? I was like, no, let's push it as far as we can.
That's it. So Kyle, I hope you enjoyed watching through Seinfeld. I don't know if you have enjoyed it, but it's probably a tough show to watch your first time through at this point, right? Would you agree with that? I don't think Seinfeld would be particularly enjoyable for a newer audience.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd be interested to learn that. See how newer people, and I say this just completely disregarding Kyle at all.
Yeah. As you do.
Yeah, as most people do. But I don't know. It's strange because I find these shows, the strange thing about sitcoms is there are so many sitcoms that were the biggest thing in the world. Like back when TV really mattered, where you had like multiple tens of millions of people watching these episodes every week.
Yep.
That are now just like half remembered, and it's not that far removed from the show.
Yeah.
You know, like 5 years after Cheers was done, I feel like Cheers was kind of like an afterthought.
Yeah.
And the same thing with Seinfeld. I don't know if people, I think maybe meme GIF culture probably saves a lot of them.
Yeah.
But even so, I don't know if, I'd be curious to know how many new viewers of Seinfeld there are these days.
I get a little annoyed. I feel that Seinfeld is a show that's undergone a backlash to it. Like, there's a lot of articles that pop up. They're like, Seinfeld isn't funny. It was never funny. And it's like, well,
Get the fuck out of here.
I feel that that's the kind of energy around it now. Because it's probably pretty slow, all things considered. Like, and the first couple seasons of Seinfeld are excruciatingly slow. Before they realized that they had to just cut more frequently and get like the stories kicking into gear, and like everyone needed a story.
When we did the pilot, that pilot's pretty rough.
Very slow. Very slow.
Yeah.
I mean, the Chinese restaurant is an interesting sitcom idea episode. It's like you're just waiting in line for your restaurant to seat you at a table. Doesn't work into a very cinematic or invigorating sitcom actual episode. It's just kind of a clever idea to do, but it doesn't work out. Well,
Seinfeld kind of breaks the sitcom to a certain extent, doesn't it? Because like I feel like after that, sitcoms are they either turn into the Office style stuff, or they just languish in traditional sitcoms, and they're just terrible.
Yeah,
you know, like what's the last like really good sitcom that was
shot like Seinfeld, like shot like a traditional sitcom.
Yeah, I recently heard someone refer to It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia as edgelord Seinfeld, and I was like, oh, that's actually a really good point. That is kind of what it is. So like that show is probably the closest to Seinfeld, and then most of the other stuff that's on now.
It is. That one's not shot as a traditional sitcom, though, is it? It's shot as a single camera.
No, it's it's a little bit more. It's not quite The Office, but it's got a little bit more documentary kind of feel to it.
Seinfeld was, Friends was past Seinfeld. So I guess Friends would be the last one that, it was of that era. I can't think of a show that would have gone, because like Arrested Development would have taken up right after Seinfeld. It was that era of those shows, and like 30 Rock and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Right?
When did Seinfeld, what was Seinfeld's last
Seinfeld
season?
was 98, right?
Oh, yeah. Arrested Development and 30 Rock, that stuff doesn't happen for
04 or something, right?
Yeah, like a handful of years after.
What were the sitcoms in there? Like what sitcom? What sitcom started 2000? Malcolm in the Middle. Maybe that's the but that was not shot traditionally either.
No. Like when I think of traditional style sitcoms now, it's like 2.5 Men or The Big Bang Theory or something, where it's like you're just using the same old template. Yeah. And it's just not interesting to me anyway.
Seinfeld might have been the end. The ones that are coming, it's like Curb started in 2000, The Ali G Show started in 2000, Malcolm in the Middle started, Gilmore Girls, Coupling. It might have been Seinfeld. Seinfeld might have just killed that as a thing. It just peaked. It was the peak. It was the pinnacle of what you could do. Anyway, the Pensky File was named after that Seinfeld episode. Cal says that his favorite episode is the Yada Yada episode, where Yada Yada is the sex.
It's just such a specific. The thing that really separates it out is that the style of comedy is so specific, which like you can draw just a line directly to Larry David and Jerry Seinfeld for that very specific angle on stuff. Yeah. Like they can make an entire episode out of that phrase, someone yada yadaing through a thing, and then they just keep tightening the screws on it until the piece breaks, you know, and it's just really, really interesting and smart.
Do you have a favorite Seinfeld episode? Anything pops to mind?
It's been too long. I always like The Gum.
The Gum is if anyone's interested in sitcom writing, The Gum is like the perfect sitcom script. It's written by Seinfeld, Simpsons writers, the Pross and Gamble, Those
Oh, really?
two. Yeah, it's that.
No kidding.
It's that feeling, but it's like it's so. That's just the perfect example of Seinfeld using its plot lines and wrapping them around each other in this really satisfying way. It's just, I think it's a brilliant sitcom script.
I always like the Chinese food restaurant one.
Yep.
Because that's like, that's the kind of thing when people complain about bottle episodes. That's a bottle episode,
Yeah.
and it's amazing. Like it's so smartly written. I
What
also
about the contest?
I really.
What do you? Is the contest
contest
overrated
is-
or underrated?
I think it's honestly, it's been too long. I can't really comment on
I
it.
think it's a little bit overrated. I don't think it's as funny
yeah.
as it.
I always like Putty. Putty was a favorite of mine.
Putty's funny.
And I always thought like the funniest when I first saw it when I was younger, it was the thing that made me go like, holy shit, I can't believe they just did that, was when they killed George's fiance.
Yeah.
That was like, it was
From licking the
unbelievable.
stamps.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got a great. I mean, Frank Costanza, Estelle Costanza are excellent. Jay Peterman, I think, is very funny.
Oh, yeah.
Steinbrenner's very funny. It does have a great backing cast. That's it. Anything else to talk about in this one? We've talked about this for 20 minutes now. I guess we're done. Did you have anything else you wanted to bring up before we go?
No, I don't think so. I think we covered it. Not to go on too much of a tangent, but I've been reading a lot of comics because it's part of what I do.
Yep.
And I just came across a book called Strange Adventures, which was written by Tom King and illustrated by Mitch Gerrards and Doc Shaner. Shaner, is that his name? I think. And it's the same team that did the book Mr. Miracle, which was like this big runaway hit. And I can't understand why no one talks about Strange Adventures, because I thought it was fantastic. Like, it was more so, possibly more so than Mr. Miracle. I know I'm just, you haven't read this, and I don't think anybody else has read this, but it's just one of those things where it was from this very successful team. It was the follow-up to this immensely successful book. And I think it might arguably be better than the other book.
Yep.
It's definitely more accessible. And I just have not heard anybody talk about it. And it's been out for 2 or 3 years at this point. And it's just one of those weird things where I feel like I have to sing the praises
Evangelize
of
it a little bit.
Yeah, because I thought it was great.
Interesting. What's the follow-up one called? Mystery.
The follow-up is Strange Adventures. Miracle Man is the big one, the one that was the big hit. Strange Adventures, both of those books take characters who are like, how would I describe it? They're both out of continuity. So they're basically taking these characters that are sort of like fringe characters and telling complete stories with them that exist outside of continuity, which allows for some crazy shit to happen. And Strange Adventures is, it's about Adam Strange, who's basically like a John Carter type, where he gets zapped to this faraway planet and he becomes the hero who saves the planet from this big invasion. And in the process, he marries the princess of the planet, and they have a daughter, and the daughter dies during the war. And so the book is him coming back, and he's written a book about his experiences. And on the book tour, he gets confronted by someone who basically calls him a war criminal for everything that he did on this other planet. And then shortly afterwards, that person ends up dead. And so it's this murder mystery thing, trying to figure out who killed this guy, and which obviously unravels a bunch of other stuff.
Yep.
But it's a really interesting look at this John Carter type character, where it's like, maybe he's not a hero, maybe he's actually a war criminal, depending on who you talk about on this other planet. And so it was a really interesting book. It was really good.
I have to do I'm doing a reading challenge this year with Amy, and one of the months is to read a graphic novel. So if anyone has any recommendations for something that I would enjoy reading, or even you, Clay, you can let me know.
Outside of what I just talked about for the past 5
minutes. Do those count? Is that count?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
It's not a. Yeah. I guess I'm hinging on what the definition of a graphic novel is. Is that a singular piece that was done, or is it a series? Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Miracle is also a singular piece. I think Strange Adventures is a little bit easier to drop into.
Okay.
Mr. Miracle's a little bit more abstract. But yeah, it's 12 issues, finished story, so you can read the whole thing. And I think I didn't know much about Mr. Miracle, or Adam Strange.
Yep.
But you get it pretty quickly what the deal is. So.
All right. Well, I'll read that one then. I'll start with the difficult one. I'll start with the first one and see how it goes.
Sure.
So I think that's in November. So I have a ways to go, but I'll check back in. Christian says this. Never heard of it.
It's not bad.
Thank you very much, Christian, for leaving comments. I guess we're done.
Thank you, Christian.
We're done. I guess that's it. We'll wrap it up there. We talked about Seinfeld. I have stuff that I was going to bring up, but I'll bring it up at the next post show. So thanks, everybody, for listening. Patreon.com/The Pensky File if you want to support the show. Otherwise, check out the Mortal Coil episode of Voyager that we just talked about. And then check out the gum and the yada yada and let me know which one is better. And then we'll tell Kyle. Because fuck Kyle. So that's it. Thanks very much for listening. We will see you later.